my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Sunday video where I look at the hottest Golden Age comics of the week. And there's a bit of a theme in this one. It wasn't intended, but man, there's some really interesting ones in this one. I'm almost thinking of like doing something horrible, and I gotta talk about that. We'll get into it. Number 10 on the list is Jedha of the 21st Century, number 5. This is from Standard Comics, 1952. It's a Dan DeCarlo cover. Really awesome, kind of sci-fi meets Good Girl. It's just a great little series. This is actually the first of the series. It only ran 3 issues, but it went from 5, 6, 7. I don't know why it had those issue numbers, but this was the first issue. This was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $170.27. This is the only sale in this grade, but this was a steal. I have to say, whoever won this little auction did really well, because this was a total steal. I actually picked up a 2.0 on my comic shop's auction in July of 2024 for $230. So a lower grade, and I paid more. And when I got that sale, actually I thought it was a good. I thought I stole it because there was a 5.0 that had sold for $910 in December of 2024. So there was a lot of interest in this book. It just, I don't know, somebody lucked out on eBay. So 2.5 for 170s, really good price. Really good price. There's only 27 of these on the census, and they're all universal grades. Number 9 on the list is 4-Color 469 from Dell, 1953. It is the very first appearance of Beetle Bailey. Very popular news strip. Obviously, he appeared earlier in the news strips, but this is his first comic book appearance. And the cover is done by Mort Walker. This one was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $215, which sounds low. Like, you think, wow, Beetle Bailey's a pretty major character, but actually this is a high sale. It's the only sale in this grade, but just to give you a sense of how affordable this book is, in a 4.5, there was a $69 sale back in July of 2023, and a 9.0 sale, so much higher grade, like almost double the grade. There was a $312 sale in January of 2023. So this book really, I would have expected it around that $100 mark. So this is about twice what you would expect. But I think this book is totally undervalued. So actually, getting it for $215, it sounds high, but it's such a cool book. I don't know why it's so undervalued. There's only 12 on the census, by the way, and all of them are Universal Blue Labels. So I don't know. Did somebody overpay, or is this book undervalued? I don't know. Number 8 on the list is World's Finest number 3. This is from DC Comics, 1941. It's a Jack Burnley cover, and it has the very first appearance of the Scarecrow. Now, if you can see by the picture, this is a page that sold, and it's sold for $288. It's the last page of World's Finest number 3. So it's actually the end of the Scarecrow story. So this is the page with that key appearance. So very important page. And it also has the end of the story where he's locked up in jail. So kind of a cool page to get. This is actually a high sale for this page. The previous record was set back in July of 2025, so just a few weeks ago, where it sold for $225. So it's up about 50% from, or not 50%, let's say $60, makes it easier. Up $60 from that prior record. Yeah, so pretty strong sale. And this one is not a complete page. It's, you can see from the picture, it's missing like a big portion of it. Uh, a, a complete page, just to show you that this was a kind of a high sale, a complete page sold back in December of 2024 for $230 of the same page. Now, the weird thing is a 0.5, where you get all the pages, but maybe a cover, or actually it was a coverless copy, a 0.5 coverless copy, sold for $1,320 in July of 2024. So you get the pages, you might not get the cover, but in theory, you could kind of slice those all out and sell it for more than like, it's just it seems really weird. Like, I always wonder about these. Like, you take some really cool book that's super valuable, but then if you sliced it up into pages, you'd actually get more money than selling the complete book. So sad. I think that's sad because it kind of encourages kind of a weird bad behavior, I think. But it was something I was thinking about. That's what I was talking about at the beginning. You're going to see more of that on this list. There's 181 of these on the census, and 142 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is Space Action number 2. This is from Ace Periodicals, 1952. It's a Lou Cameron cover, and it's a great cover. I always love this cover. It's sci-fi, and it's actually got a bit of Good Girl. In the reflection on the visor, you'll see that the monster is holding a woman. So it's got a bit of that horror, a bit of sci-fi, and he's holding a woman, so you got a bit of Good Girl. Great cover. I love this one. This is a 4.5 that sold, and it sold for $320. This is another steal, I think. I think somebody got a really good bargain on this one, because the previous record for this book was set back in December of 2022 for $499. Now, this book actually has been going down since that high sale in 2022, because the last sale just in May of 2024 was for $432. So this book has been kind of on the decline. Still a cool book. Somebody got a really great price on it. There's 41 of these on the census, and 39 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 6 on the list is Sun Girl number 1. This is from Timely Comics, 1948. It's a Ken Bald cover. And this is the first titled series for Sun Girl. She made her appearance earlier in Happy Hooligans, number 1. But this is her first solo title. There's only 3 issues of this book. Actually, wait. Happy Hooligans is actually Moon Girl. Sun Girl, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to think of, where did Sun Girl make her first appearance? Yeah. I think it was, I gotta check that. I'm gonna put maybe a little note on this one, because I'm not sure where she made her first appearance. One sec here. I have it right there. I'm just kind of curious. Now I'm going to be bothered by my own video. Okay, so just think about that. But yeah, so there was only three issues in the run. It was 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. It was only 3, all really cool, good girl meets superhero kind of covers. This was a 0.5 that sold. It was a remainder copy, you guys, you can see from the photo. And it sold for $505. The previous record for this book was set back in October of 2024 for $289. So this is a big sale for this book, almost doubled. And it, for a remainder copy, that's kind of interesting. This book usually is a hard one to find, actually. It's one of those really annoying books to try to find. So it's really almost like a seller's market on this one particular book. I way overpaid when I bought my copy, because it was just, it's a hard book to find, and basically you just have to find somebody that's willing to sell it. There are 66 of these on the census, and 57 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Spotlight Comics number 1. This is from Harry A. Chesler. It's from 1944, and it's a Joe Tuska cover, and it features the origin of the Black Dwarf. Kind of a cool issue. Spotlight Comics was a short-lived series, but it's another one that only lasted a few issues. But really cool covers on those issues. This was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for a best offer. It was originally listed at $925, but it sold for $600. Which is interesting because the previous record for this book was set back in May of 2025, where the person that sold it basically bought it for $930. So they kind of lost on this one. It looked like that sale that happened in May of 2025 was a bit of an overpay. And I think this is more in line with what this book normally sells for. So, it's kind of sad that they kind of overpaid on that one. There's 21 of these on the census, and 20 are Universal Blue Labels. Number 4 on the list is Ghost Comics number 1. This is from Fiction House 1951. It's a Maurice Whitman cover, and it's a great. This is probably one of the coolest pre-code horror titles. Sort of like Planet Comics, or like for Fiction House, Planet Comics kind of brings people into sci-fi golden age. Well, Ghost Comics kind of brings people into pre-code horror. This is one of those titles that went crazy during COVID. Like, really had massive sales, really high record-breaking sales during COVID. Since then, the prices have really corrected on the Fiction House Ghost Comics. So this one was a 5.0, and it sold for $1,000. The previous record, which was set during COVID, was for $2,280. And there was actually a couple big COVID sales around that. So it was just like, as I said, these went crazy during COVID, and they have since recorrected. That was in June of 2021. The most recent sale before this $1,000 sale was set back in December of 2024, where 5.0 had sold for $630. So that is much more in line to where this book sells. This book, since COVID, like there was sales after COVID, and just like the rest of the comic market where everything kind of jumped down or dropped down, this had kind of that big price correction too, where after COVID, the prices have really ranged from around $600 on the low end all the way up to $1,300. So the $1,000 is sort of a mid price. It's not a record. It's not a low price. It's just sort of mid price. But those COVID prices were kind of insane. People way overpaid during COVID. And it's just because, as I said, this is one of those series that was sort of a gateway to pre-code horror. And as such, it was hot during COVID. Kind of prices really adjusted. There are 98 of these on the census, and 97 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Detective Comics number 27. This is from DC Comics, 1939. It's a Bob Kane cover. It's the first appearance of Batman and Commissioner Gordon. Just a huge book, probably one of the top 3 comics of all time. And this is another page. And it sold for a crazy amount. It sold for $2,300. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's the 7th page of Detective Comics, and it was not a Batman page. There's no Batman on this page. And it has Black Marshall instead, a Black Marshall story, which is interesting because, if you're going to buy a Detective 27 page, you would try to get the Batman page. And so this was kind of an interesting one because you would think, well, that's a lot of money to pay for a page that really isn't something with the first appearance or something kind of cool. Unlike the World's Finest that we saw on this list, this one really doesn't have that connection to Detective 27 that the Scarecrow's first appearance did. At least you have the Scarecrow on the page. But this is the only sale for this page. Normally, non-Batman pages kind of go for around $1,000 to $1,500. Okay, so this is, I would say, a bit of an overpay. I think somebody went, it was a buy it now. I think they overpaid. They paid about double what they should have paid. There was other kind of incomplete copies of Detective 27 that have sold over the years. There was one where it was only the back cover. That's all you get. And that sold for $2,666 back in December of 2023. There was a 0.5 coverless copy that sold for $70,000 in July of 2023. So it's interesting how these incomplete, like, people just want a piece of history and they're willing to pay up for it. So this was I think a big overpay personally. That's a personal opinion. If you bought this, enjoy it. At least you have a Detective 27. That's more than I can say. It's still a cool thing. I actually got a notification because I have like Detective 27 on my watch list. I got a notification when this came up and I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of money. So yeah, so there's 81 of these on the census, 81 in any grade of Detective 27, and only 38 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So very small number for such a high demand book. That's why it's so expensive. Number 2 on the list is Plastic Man #1. This is from Quality Comics, 1943. It's a Jack Cole cover, and it's just a cool cover. This is a crazy skull cover, really great cover. It's one that I've always loved. I love this cover. This is Plastic Man's first solo title, and it was a long-running series, actually, Plastic Man. This was a 3.0 that sold, and it sold for $1,900. Which is way up because the previous record for this book was set back in July of 2015, so 10 years ago. So things have changed, where it sold for $800. Now, just based on inflation, I would have expected this to sell for around $1,600. So a little bit over, but not too much. I mean, this is kind of within what you would expect it to sell for. So $1,900 seems like a fair price for this book. There are 78 of these on the census, and 61 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 1 on the list is Blue Beetle, Blue Bolt #2. This is from Novelty Press, 1940, and this is something where I've learned something new. This is the first time where you get Simon and Kirby collaborating with each other. So a very important key, because Simon and Kirby is probably one of the most iconic duos for comic books. So this is when they first started working together. They didn't do the cover, though. The cover was actually done by Larry Antoinette. But still, this is such an iconic book because of that important collaboration between Simon and Kirby. This was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $3,500. Huge sale for such an important book. The previous record for this book was set back in 2013, so quite a ways ago, where it sold for $538. So it's up 7 times in 10 years, which is massive. Huge sale. This one I think was a bit of an overpay. So there was a 6.5 that just recently sold in October of 2024 for $3,565. So, $15 more. And then there was a 4.5 that sold back in September of 2024 for $2,040. So I would have expected it to be somewhere in between those two numbers, maybe around 3,000 or 2,700 range. So a bit of an overpay, but such a great book. This is not one that you find that often. Those two sales in 1 year was actually kind of a big deal. It's not a common book. There's only 18 of these on the census, and 14 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So I think it's one that, again, sometimes there's a bit of that seller's market where, like people will, be able to determine the price because you don't have that many to choose from. And I think that's what happened in this case. So just a really cool book. I think that's one that is worthy of chasing. Lots of really good ones on this list. What do you think about buying pages, though? I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Would you cut up a book if you could make more money selling the pages than selling the book? I'd love to hear that as well. And again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.